Livestock News, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com.
Chad, how you doing?
Very good, Brian. What do you know?
Oh, well, I know it's getting cold.
It is. You're wearing a jacket today.
I am wearing a jacket. I normally wear shorts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting
to be that time of year.
It is getting to be that time of the year. Talking about that time of the year, let's talk about keeping our animals hydrated.
Right.
And ponds, it was a brutal summer, maybe not a lot of water.
Right.
But we've got to still get them water. What's on the market that will help us do that?
Well, I think the first place to start, Brian, is when you have a lot of animals to water and that you're responsible for their care. I think it's important to evaluate your current supply of water. I think it might be some ponds that maybe haven't dried up in the past may do it this year, especially the further south and west you get. So I would go out and evaluate what you got, and if that pond looks like something, if you fell on hard times, you wouldn't go out there and drink, I wouldn't consider that for your livestock as well. So you might check and evaluate your current supply, and then kind of plan some options from there on what we're going to do. So I would start with deciding what alternatives do you have? Do you have a supply of water? Do you have a supply of possibly electricity? When we get into freezing, inside the winter time, those are going to become aspects that they're going to want to consider when they get started.
Now, what about having different livestock? Are we going to put out the same tubs we would if we have horses versus cattle?
Pretty much. There may be a difference when it comes to the height of that tank if you get a smaller animals like goats or pigs, but when we're talking about considerably large animals like horses, cattle, those sorts of things, they're all going to drink out of about a 2-foot stock tank. It's very, very standard in the industry. Sometimes you may see it slightly higher, but you want enough to hold the volume but that they can still get their head over. And remember, animals drink down, they don't drink high. Right. So you don't really need to have it high, just as long as they can get down to the bottom and drink it up.
Lots of things on the market.
Right.
We've got plastic, metal, we've got several behind us here.
Right.
Again, how do we evaluate what's going to work best for our operation?
It kind of depends on the situation. The first thing we need to know is how many head are we watering. We don't want to go out and get a 15-gallon tank and have 30 head that drink it in 2 minutes and we're filling the water all the time. So we want to evaluate how many head that we're going to be watering, select the appropriate size of tank in gallons so that you're refreshing that water about every 2 to 3 days, something like that, maybe every day depending on how they're doing. But you don't want it to sit and be stagnant. Have a big old tank for one horse and that water can kind of get stagnant out there. So when we go out, we'd select our water tank. The difference between galvanized and poly, poly tends to be a little more durable. It has a little bit more longevity associated with it, but it does grow algae. That's one of the disadvantages to poly, is for some reason in those little grooves we get a little algal bloom every once in a while. The automatic waters are pretty self-explanatory. When you get those things set up, I've never met a person who was disappointed that they'd set that up. When you get into breaking ice, you get into doing the tank heaters and running the water, I think they really appreciate having that forget it and fix it type thing. In this type of situation this year, if you've got access to those, it might be a good consideration for you. Now, as far as just general poly tanks and getting that water recirculated, I think it's important that you just pay attention, especially when things start freezing, so that source of water is always open, clean and fresh, and if you wouldn't drink it, they're not going to drink it. Yeah.
Now we have information on haycow.com.
That's right. We'll probably post this one along with some other things on HeyCow about water tanks and the automatic waters that are available, those sorts of things. The big thing is just to develop a plan and a plan for this fall for the livestock so that you know what you're getting into.